There's a story every child knows. A poor girl, a glass slipper, a prince, a happily ever after. But what if everything you were told was a lie? What if the real story was so disturbing, so violent, that it had to be erased from history? Tonight, you will learn the truth about Cinderella. And after this, you will never see this fairy tale the same way again. The story begins not in a Disney castle, but in the blood-soaked pages of medieval Europe. Long before the sanitized version reached your childhood bookshelf, Cinderella was a tale of mutilation, revenge, and violence that would make even adults recoil in horror. The version you know, the one with the singing mice and the pumpkin carriage, is nothing more than a carefully constructed lie. A lie designed to hide the brutal truth of what this story really meant. In the year 1812, two German brothers named Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm published a collection of folk tales. These were not the cheerful bedtime stories you might imagine. They were dark, violent narratives pulled from the oral traditions of peasants and commoners, stories that reflected the harsh realities of medieval life, death, starvation, cruelty. And among these tales was one called Aschenputtel. You know it as Cinderella, but you do not know it at all. Let me tell you what really happened. A young girl loses her mother. On her deathbed, the mother tells her daughter to remain pious and good, and a tree will grow on her grave. The father remarries. The new wife brings two daughters of her own, beautiful on the outside, rotten on the inside. They strip the girl of her fine clothes and force her to work as a servant. They make her sleep in the ashes by the fireplace. They call her Aschenputtel, Ash Girl, Cinderella, but here is where the story turns dark. The father travels to a fair and asks each daughter what gift she desires. The stepsisters want jewels and fine dresses. But Cinderella asks for a simple hazel branch. When her father returns, she plants it on her mother's grave. She waters it with her tears, and from that branch grows a magnificent tree. Every day, Cinderella visits the grave. She weeps beneath the tree, and a white bird appears, not a fairy godmother, a bird. Some scholars believe this bird represents her dead mother's spirit. Others think it symbolizes something far more sinister, revenge. Now the king announces a festival, 3 nights of dancing. The prince will choose a bride. The stepsisters are ecstatic. They spend days preparing, trying on gowns, painting their faces. Cinderella wants to go too. But the stepmother pours lentils into the ashes and commands her to pick them out. An impossible task. If you finish, you may go, the stepmother says, knowing full well the girl cannot succeed. But Cinderella calls to the birds. Dozens of them descend and separate the lentils from the ashes in minutes. The stepmother is furious. She pours even more lentils. Again, the birds help, but the stepmother refuses to let her go anyway. You have no clothes, you have no shoes. You would shame us. The stepsisters leave for the ball, laughing and mocking her. Cinderella is alone. She goes to her mother's grave and weeps. The white bird appears. It drops a gown of silver and gold, and slippers, not glass, mind you. In the original German, they were likely made of fur or silk. The glass slipper is a mistranslation from the French version by Charles Perrault, where pantoufles en verre, fur slippers, became pantoufles en verre, glass slippers. But glass or not, the symbolism remains. The slipper is a test of worthiness, and in some interpretations, a test of virginity. The prince dances with her all night. He is enchanted, but when midnight approaches, Cinderella flees. She cannot let him see her in rags. The prince tries to follow, but she escapes. The next night, the same thing happens. A more beautiful gown, another dance, another escape. On the third night, the prince is prepared. He has the palace stairs coated in pitch, a thick, sticky tar. When Cinderella runs, her slipper sticks. She leaves it behind. The prince holds the golden slipper and makes a proclamation. Whoever fits this shoe will be my bride. The stepmother hears this and sees an opportunity. She locks Cinderella in the attic. Then she calls her eldest daughter and hands her the slipper. Try it on. The The daughter does, but her foot is too large. The shoe does not fit. And here in the brothers Grimm version, the stepmother does something unthinkable. She hands her daughter a knife. "Cut off your toe," she says. "When you are queen, you will not need to walk." The daughter hesitates, then she takes the knife. She cuts off her big toe. Blood pours into the slipper. She forces her mutilated foot inside. The prince arrives. He sees the slipper on her foot. He believes she is his bride. He lifts her onto his horse and begins to ride away. But as they pass the hazel tree on Cinderella's mother's grave, two white doves cry out, turn and look, there is blood in the shoe." The prince stops. He looks down. Blood is seeping through the slipper, dripping onto the ground. He realizes he has been deceived. He takes the girl back. The stepmother is undeterred. She calls her second daughter. The same command, the same knife. But this time the girl cuts off her heel. Again, blood. Again, the slipper is forced on. Again, the prince is fooled. And again, the doves warn him. Turn and look, there is blood in the shoe." He returns the second daughter, furious now. He demands to know if there are any other daughters in the house. The stepmother lies. But the father mentions the girl in the attic, the scullery maid. Cinderella is brought down, filthy, covered in ash. The prince hands her the slipper. It fits perfectly. No blood, no pain, just a perfect fit. He recognizes her as the girl from the ball. She is his true bride, but the story does not end with a wedding. On the day of the ceremony, the two stepsisters arrive, hoping to gain favor with the new princess. As they walk to the church, the white doves swoop down. They peck out one eye from each sister, one eye each as they pass on the left side. After the wedding, as the sisters leave, the doves return. They peck out the other eyes. Now both sisters are completely blind, and the Grimm brothers write, and thus, for their wickedness and falsehood, they were punished with blindness for the rest of their days. This is not a story about kindness rewarded. It is a story about vengeance. It is a story about the brutal lengths people will go to for power and status. It is a story soaked in blood. So why was this version erased? Why did we get the Disney film with singing animals and a pumpkin carriage? Because the real story reveals too much. It reveals the desperation of women in a world where marriage was the only path to survival. It reveals the violence that underpinned social mobility. It reveals that beauty and status were worth mutilation, disfigurement, even murder. The stepsisters did not cut off their toes and heels because they were evil. They did it because they were terrified. In medieval Europe, unmarried women had no rights, no property, no future. Marriage to a prince was not a fairy tale. It was survival, and the stepmother knew this. She was not a villain. She was a pragmatist. She was doing what she believed was necessary to secure her daughter's futures. But the prince, the handsome hero, he is complicit too. He is so shallow, so focused on the slipper, that he nearly marries two mutilated women without even noticing the blood. He does not ask their names. He does not speak to them. He only cares about the shoe. And what about Cinderella herself? In the original, she is not a passive damsel. She does not wait for rescue. She calls on the spirits of the dead. She commands birds to do her bidding. She uses magic, possibly dark magic, to achieve her goals. Some scholars argue that the hazel tree and the white bird represent pre-Christian pagan rituals. That Cinderella is practicing a form of necromancy, summoning her mother's spirit for aid. If this is true, then the story is even darker than it appears. It is a tale of a girl who makes a pact with the dead to escape her suffering. And the glass slipper, it is not just a shoe. In some interpretations, it is a symbol of sexual purity, a test to determine which girl is a virgin. The fact that only Cinderella can wear it without pain suggests that she alone is pure, untouched. The stepsisters, by cutting their feet, are literally shedding blood to fake this purity. They are mutilating themselves to appear worthy of the prince's bed. This is the real horror of Cinderella, not the rags, not the ashes, but the message beneath it all. that a woman's worth is determined by her body, by her beauty, by her ability to fit into an impossible standard, and those who do not fit must cut away pieces of themselves to survive. The tale spread across Europe in dozens of versions. In some, the stepsisters are kind at first, only turning cruel later. In others, Cinderella herself takes revenge, pushing her stepmother into a barrel of nails. In a Scottish version, the stepsisters kill Cinderella and bury her under a flagstone, but she returns as a singing bird to reveal the truth. In a Chinese version from the 9th century, the earliest known Cinderella tale, the girl is named Yixian. Her stepmother kills her beloved fish, the only creature that brought her comfort. Yixian collects the fish bones and uses them as a magical talisman. She attends a festival in golden slippers and a gown of kingfisher feathers. The king finds her slipper and searches the kingdom. When he discovers Yixian, the stepmother and stepsister are stoned to death. Even in the French version by Charles Perrault, written in 1697, there are dark undertones. Perrault added the fairy godmother and the pumpkin carriage to make the story more palatable for the French royal court. But he kept the midnight deadline, a symbol of time running out, of transformation that cannot last. He kept the idea that Cinderella must hide her true self to be loved, that she must perform a role, wear a disguise to be worthy of affection. And when the clock strikes 12, the illusion shatters. She is nothing again, just ash and rags. This is the tragedy at the heart of Cinderella. No matter how beautiful the gown, how magical the night, it is all temporary. The real world, the world of cruelty and suffering, is always waiting, and no prince can save you from it. So why do we still tell this story? Why do we sanitize it, strip away the blood and the violence, and feed it to children? Because we want to believe in transformation. We want to believe that kindness is rewarded, that beauty is recognized, that love conquers all. But the original story does not promise any of this. It promises only that the world is brutal, that survival requires sacrifice, and that even happy endings are built on blood. The doves that blind the stepsisters are not agents of justice. They are agents of revenge. Cinderella does not forgive. She does not show mercy. She watches as her tormentors are punished, and she does nothing to stop it. This is the girl we celebrate, not a gentle dreamer, but a survivor who understands that in a cruel world, you must be willing to let others suffer for your happiness. And perhaps that is the real lesson of Cinderella, not that dreams come true, but that they come at a cost paid in blood, in pain, in the suffering of others. The stepsisters were not born evil. They were made desperate by a world that gave them no choice, and Cinderella was not born good. She was made ruthless by the same world. In the end, they are all victims of a system that measures worth by beauty and status. A system that forces women to compete, to mutilate themselves, to destroy each other for the approval of men. And we call this a fairy tale. We call it entertainment. We tell it to children and say, see, good things happen to good people. But that is not the story at all. The story is this: the world is cruel, people will hurt you, and if you want to survive, you must be willing to hurt them back. That is the disturbing true origin of Cinderella. Not a tale of magic and wonder, but a tale of violence and revenge. And now you know. The next time you see a glass slipper, remember, it is not a symbol of dreams coming true. It is a symbol of blood, of mutilation, of the terrible price women pay to be loved. And the real horror is not that this story was told. The real horror is that we are still telling it. We are still teaching children that beauty is worth any sacrifice. That love requires transformation, that you must cut away pieces of yourself to fit into someone else's expectations. Cinderella is not a fairy tale. It is a warning, and we have been ignoring it for centuries.